Hi everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Nick Cosgrove and I am back with this week's No Filter Q&A. This is the episode where I answer all questions related to diet, training, and supplementation that I've received over the last 7 days from our in-house clients, online clients, as well as a few of our online followers. Remember, if you have any questions related to your nutritional plan, workout program, supplements you are currently taking, not taking, or considering taking, please feel free to email me those questions at nick@foreverfitperformance.com, or you can DM me your questions on my Instagram at fitcosgrove_. All right, let's get started with this week's no filter Q&A with question number one. Nick, is 30 minutes really enough for a killer workout? Oh, absolutely. I talked about this a few weeks ago on the channel. It's not the duration of the workout that's important. It's what you do with the time you have during that workout that matters. Okay. So it's about the level of intensity. It's using your time in an efficient manner as opposed to wasting it, taking prolonged rest periods in between sets, cruising Instagram on your phone, looking at TikTok reels. So it depends on what you're doing. If you're zoned into your workout, if you're focused on each and every rep you're doing, on each set you're going to do, what's your next exercise going to be, you can get a great workout in 30 minutes. But if you're on your phone, if you're taking too long of rest periods in between sets, no, you can't. So again, it's not about the duration of the workout, it's what you do during that workout. There's lots of people out there that say they're in the gym for 90 minutes, 2 hours, but they're not training. I see it. They're sitting on benches, they're looking at their phone, they're staring off in space, they're lifting weights that are way too light for them, or they're lifting weights that are way too heavy for them. So they're not practicing proper form and technique. So again, it's not the duration of the workout, it's what you do during that workout that matters. Okay. I've talked about in the past how my own workouts are never longer than 45, 50 minutes, and that's max. And even when I used to compete, that was the max, going 50 minutes in a workout, never more than that. Because I feel like if you're training hard and you're training with the utmost amount of intensity, you want to get the hell out of the gym after 40, 45 minutes. You don't want to be there any longer than that. But yeah, if you're moving slow and you're lifting light, or you're doing one heavy set with 1 or 3 reps and you rest for 10 minutes in between sets, yeah, I can see you being there for 2 hours, but you're not going to really build any solid, lean, dense muscle. You're not going to develop an aesthetically pleasing physique. Might build some strength in the gym, but you're not going to see really big body transformation changes with your physique and your internal health. Okay. So it's what you do. It's not about the amount of time that you're in there. There's people I know out there who train for 20, 25 minutes and they're making better progress than people who are in there for an hour to 90 minutes. Okay. So you have to get the duration of the workout out of your mind. It's not about the time that you're in the gym. It's what you do while you're in the gym that matters. All right. Okay. Nick, should you lift heavy or go high rep for fat loss? You should do both. I think there's a misconception behind going with higher reps. When I talk with clients about going in that 10 to 15 rep range, I still want you to lift heavy. No, I don't want you to be lifting ridiculously heavy, but I want you to lift a weight that you can control with good form and that you can feel the muscles on both the eccentric and concentric contraction, but it should be a challenge. So if you're doing, let's say, a set and it has to be 15 reps, when you get into that 12, 13, 14 rep range, every rep should be a challenge. You can still get it up or get it down depending on what the movement you're doing, but it should be a challenge. It shouldn't be easy. Okay. So I think there's a lot of people that think higher reps, lighter weight, that's going to tone muscle. Well, listen, you can't tone something that's not there. So you have to build muscle. So you want to get out of that mindset of going too light with high reps. At the same time, I don't advise people to go too heavy with low reps. I've never been a big fan of single digit reps. I've talked about this in the past. I think your chances of injury go up. I think that most people who go to the gym, they go to the gym because they want to see changes in their physique and they want to feel changes internally. And I don't feel that single digit reps offer benefits to either. I think single digit reps are great powerlifting movements. I think that they will help build strength. So if your goal is to be a power lifter or to build just overall strength, single digit reps work great. 1 rep maxes work great. But again, for the general population who are going to the gym to make changes in their physique and their health, I feel single digit reps offer zero benefit whatsoever. That's my personal opinion. So with that being said, I do recommend that most, if not everyone, stick in that 10 to 15 rep range. Again, with a weight that you can control, but is challenging to do. Okay, so your first set, of course, is going to be a warm-up weight. On every new exercise you do during your workout, it should be a warm-up weight that you could easily do 30 reps with, but you're not going to. You're going to do 15 reps with. Then your second set should be a little heavier. Your third set could be a little bit heavier, and your fourth or final set could be the heaviest. You could pyramid up, okay? But if you stay within that 10 to 15 rep range, in my opinion, you're going to build solid, lean, dense muscle. Okay. So you're going to build an aesthetically pleasing physique. You're going to improve your cardiovascular endurance in the gym, your recovery rate, your internal health, heart health overall, your mobility, your flexibility. And you're just going to get a better sweat in the gym too. Okay. So this is why I recommend people stay within double digits. But that's up to you. But to answer your question, you can build muscle with both. There are people out there who do single digit reps and they do build some muscle. But in my opinion, if you want to sculpt that muscle and you want to develop like that solid, lean, dense muscle belly that shows definition, double digits work best. All right. Okay. Nick, how do fit people actually stay motivated year round? I think you have to love what you do. It's just like your career, right? And you talk to a lot of people who are successful. They love what they do. Okay. They found a career that they're passionate about. So to them, it's not work. So the same thing goes for staying in shape year round. It's not a struggle for people who love working out to go to the gym. It's not a struggle for people who love the way they feel when they eat healthy to follow a clean diet. But if you don't love it, and you're like, oh crap, I got to go do a workout, or oh shit, now I got to have another bowl of chicken and rice, it's going to be challenging. And I've talked about the mental challenges of getting around the diet, getting around the training. And this is why a lot of people hire personal trainers or have meal prep companies. So they can kind of fast track those problems that they're dealing with, or sorry, I should say they can troubleshoot around those problems and fast track their results. So that's why a lot of people hire personal trainers because they don't really enjoy going to the gym. So the trainers help hold them accountable so that they know they're not going to be missing, 3 or 4 workouts a week. Same thing with the diet. If they're following a nutritional plan, I know a lot of clients that work with me on the nutritional plan. I set up a plan for them. They prep their own meals. A lot of my clients do hire meal prep service companies or have their own private chef that can cook the meals for them. But a lot of people do it themselves. Okay. So it can be done. It just takes a lot of discipline. So if you hate doing meal prep, you hate going to the gym, well, then you just have to focus on being disciplined. Okay. And I talked about that last week of how being disciplined, in my opinion, is more important than being consistent. Okay. You have to be disciplined. You have to. Okay. You can't just be motivated 24/7. You have to be disciplined. Consistency is key, of course, but you're not going to be consistent unless you're disciplined. So it comes down to being disciplined. But for people who enjoy going to the gym and for people who enjoy eating clean, it's not a challenge. Like for me, even after I stopped competing, it wasn't like, oh, I get to take my foot off the gas now that I'm not going to be taking off my clothes in front of a bunch of people on stage and being critiqued and judged by my physique. I actually enjoy working out. I enjoy eating clean. I like the results. I like the results I see and I like the results that I feel. So for me to go to the gym and train, it's not like, oh, I got to go work out. For me to have another bowl of chicken and rice, it's not like, oh, I hate this. I like it. I enjoy it. That's me though. Okay. But again, if you don't like this lifestyle, but you know it's good for you, it comes down to discipline. And that's something that you have to work on. And if you know that you can't be disciplined on your own, then I strongly advise you to work with a trainer that can help hold you accountable in the gym and maybe put together a nutritional plan for you outside the gym that you can follow. So something that's structured, a structured program that will work for you that you can implement into your lifestyle. Okay. Something that's realistic and sustainable. Because as I always say, if it's not sustainable, you're not going to be successful. Okay. So don't put together a program that is unrealistic and you're going to give up on within 2 to 3 weeks. Put together a program that you know you can do. So if that's working out 2 or 3 days a week in the gym, if that's realistic for you, put that in. Okay. If you know that, hey, I can't eat clean 24 hours a day, but I know I can get at least 4 of my 5 meals clean. That's great. That's your goal. Okay. So have realistic expectations, set realistic goals, and manage your expectations accordingly. Okay. That's important too. Because if you're not willing to be all in, that's fine. But don't kid yourself and think you're going to get a six pack and bulging biceps if you're only going to the gym 2 or 3 times a week and you're having a cheat meal every day. You're going to get a decent looking physique. You're going to feel better. You're going to look better, but you're not going to get those incredible results that you yourself might be thinking in your head you're going to achieve. All right. Okay. Nick, what's better for transformation? CrossFit, bodybuilding, or cardio only? I think you mean for body transformation. If it's for body transformation, I'm going to say bodybuilding because that's what bodybuilding is all about. Sorry, but bodybuilding is really a sport on vanity. People do bodybuilding exercises to build muscle, okay, to lose fat. Who doesn't want to have a V taper? Who will, wider lats, smaller torso? If you're a woman, who doesn't want to have nice firm glutes, right? If you're a guy, who doesn't want to have striated pecs? So, these are bodybuilding movements. So, bodybuilding is designed for aesthetics. The benefits, though, from bodybuilding go beyond aesthetics. There's numerous health benefits to bodybuilding because at the end of the day, when you're bodybuilding, you're strengthening your muscles. That's important. That can help as you get older prevent diseases like osteoarthritis, tendonitis, bursitis, right? Help keep your immune system strong. Very rarely, if ever, do I get sick. Okay. And I attribute that to bodybuilding. I attribute that to having a strong immune system because I work my central nervous system, I work my muscular system, so I feel good. Okay. And so a lot of people who work out regularly, even CrossFitters to some degree, they don't really get sick. They have a stronger immune system. The people who get sick very often usually are fairly sedentary. So they're always getting colds, they're always feeling run down, their immune system's weak. Okay. So doing exercises like bodybuilding and like I said, even CrossFit, even cardio does help boost your immune system. But if you're looking for a body transformation, bodybuilding hands down, because CrossFit's great for cardiovascular endurance. You will build some muscle for sure, but in my opinion, you're not really going to sculpt the muscle because you're not doing exercises that require hypertrophy, right? You're doing a lot of ballistic movements, so you're going to get explosive movements. That's going to build strength. That's going to build endurance. But in my opinion, it doesn't really build that muscular physique, that low body fat physique. A lot of CrossFitters are in great shape. I'm not taking that away from them, but I'm saying if you look at bodybuilders, both male and female, those physiques really pop. Okay. So the look that a lot of people come to me and they say, "Hey, I want to look like this." I'm like, like you have to do bodybuilding exercises because if you're showing me a physique that's a bodybuilder, man or woman, guess what? They're doing bodybuilding exercises. They're not doing CrossFit. They're not running outside 7 days a week. They're not a runner. If you look at a runner's body, and I'm not knocking runners here, but if you look at a runner's body, let's say someone who doesn't do any weights, all they do is run, they're very lean, but they don't really have much muscle on them. Okay. You can't say they're fat, but you can't say they're muscular either. So if you want to develop that lean, hard, muscular look that most people aspire to look like, you need to do bodybuilding exercises, which means you need to bench press, you need to squat, you need to do seated rows, you need to do lat pull downs, you need to do dumbbell curls, tricep extensions, dumbbell shoulder press, lateral raises, rear delt raises. These are exercises that need to be done in order to sculpt the physique that you're aspiring to obtain. All right. Okay. Nick, should you work out fasted in the morning? Okay, so this will depend on a few factors. Number one will be your genetics. Okay. So what I mean by that is some people are what we call endomorphs, which means that they have a slower metabolism. Okay. These are people who put on fat fairly easy, but they also put on muscle very easily. Then you have people who are what we call ectomorphs. Ectomorphs are people who are naturally thin. Okay. They have a hard time putting on fat, but they also have a hard time putting on muscle. Okay. And then we have another body type called mesomorphs, which is kind of a combination of the two, which is like the perfect storm. You have someone that can lose body fat easily and build muscle easily. Now, unfortunately, there's not that many mesomorphs walking around on this planet. Okay. So those are what we call the genetic elite. So you're usually either an endomorph or an ectomorph, one or the other. Now, you also have to take into consideration your metabolism. Okay. So if you're someone like me who digests food very quickly, you could eat 5 minutes before a workout and be fine. But if you're someone who has a slower metabolism, you might notice that you need maybe an hour, even maybe 2, 3 hours to digest your food before you go train. Okay. In that case, you might work out better in a fasted state. Okay. Now, if you're someone like me, though, who pretty much metabolizes their food instantly as soon as they eat it, you probably benefit more from having a small meal, not a big meal, but a small meal before you train. If you're looking for overall fat loss purposes, Training in a fasted state, there are numerous studies that show that it can be very beneficial for burning fat. Now, ideally, I like my clients to do cardio in a fasted state and have something in their stomach before they weight train. But if you're not doing any cardio, or if you can only do your weight training early in the morning, then you have to really feel it out. And what I mean by that is you have to see for yourself. Do you work out better in a fasted state? Or do you work out better with just a little bit of carbs, maybe some lean protein in your diet prior to training, your pre-workout meal? For everyone across the board, though, I generally recommend that you do not consume fats pre-workout for the simple reason that fats take longer for the body to digest. And the last thing you want is your body digesting food while you're training on the gym floor, because that could lead to, maybe digestive issues. You could feel like nauseated, so potentially even constipated, or you have to go to the bathroom, whatever it may be. So I generally recommend people avoid fats pre-workout. But I'm not against people training in a fasted state, especially if they're training first thing in the morning. It's really more of a trial and error for your body. So I can tell you right now that most people I work with who train with me before 8 a.m., they don't eat. Okay. But after that, usually around like anyone trains with me after 9 o'clock or 10, 11 in the morning, they've had at least one meal. And for those people who do get nauseous, it's usually something small. It could be a small meal, like a third of a cup of oats and a scoop of protein powder. That's it. Okay. That's not a big meal. Takes less than 5 minutes to eat and easy to digest. Okay. So there's no right or wrong here. But the most important thing is if you look at the overall picture, which is a 24-hour window, it's what you do after that workout that's going to make the difference. So if you don't eat before your workout, and let's say you don't eat 2 or 3 hours after your workout, that's not good because your muscles will go into a catabolic state. We don't want that. So ideally, if you're going to train in a fasted state, you want to get a post-workout meal within at least 60 minutes, 2 hours max. Okay. So you don't want to go too long without eating between or surrounding that workout, I should say. So there's no right or wrong answer to that. I recommend, trying to do a trial and error and figure out what works best for you, but really pay attention to how your body feels when you train with food in it versus when you train with food without. Okay. And you might be surprised because there's a lot of people who prefer to train without food in their body. And I know there's a lot of nutritionists and fitness experts out there that say, no, you have to eat pre-workout. I disagree with that. I think it depends on the individual, their metabolism, and their body type. Okay. Okay, Nick, how important is your workout split, or does it even matter at all? Your workout split is incredibly important. You cannot go into the gym and not have a plan. You cannot wander into the gym and go, "Oh, I wonder what I'm going to train today." No, you have to have a game plan. You have to know what you're going to train. Even my clients know what they're going to train when they come see me. I have a training split designed and ready for them. So they know exactly which muscle groups they're training on that day. Okay, that's not just important physically, it's also important mentally. So you can prepare yourself as to what's to come. Okay. So for example, if you know you've got a leg day coming up, as you're coming to the gym, you're mentally preparing yourself for the leg day. You're visualizing yourself squatting. You're visualizing yourself doing half squats, leg press, step ups, lunges, so on, leg extensions, hip thrusts, whatever it may be. You have an idea as to what's happening so you can mentally prepare yourself for what's to come. If you're going into the gym and wandering aimlessly, oh, maybe I'll bench press and maybe I'll do some rows, maybe I'll do some lat pull downs, maybe I'll throw in some lateral raises and do some hip thrusts. Oh, maybe I'll go do some abs. That's not good. Okay. Because what's happening then is you're kind of just making it up as you go. And then you go in the gym the next day or maybe the day after that, and you do kind of the same thing, right? Now you're asking for injury. So you have to put together a structured split training program that makes sense. Okay. If it doesn't make sense, you're going to risk injury and you're not going to see results. And, I even see trainers doing this with clients. And, I always think shame on you because you're a personal trainer. You should know how to put together a training split. And there are numerous times that I see trainers just making up the workout as they go. And there's times I'll see trainers in the gym and, they're doing bench press with clients on Monday and they're doing it again on a Wednesday. I'm like, what are you doing? You just did bench press on a Monday. That muscle has not recovered properly in 48 hours. You need to rest that muscle properly or else you're going to overtrain it and you could actually tear your pecs. So whether it's a pec major or pec minor tear. So you have to be careful with how you train and you have to put together a training split that makes sense. Okay. So training split is top three. It's up there, top three with dietary nutrition and rest, recovery, and hydration. It's up there. So yeah, it's absolutely important. And the training split that you put together, will really depend on how often you're going to the gym. So if you're someone who trains, let's say 3 days a week, a great training split could look like something like chest and back day one, shoulders, biceps, and triceps day two, quads, hamstrings, glutes, and abs day three. Okay. So that's a great 3 day training split. If you're in the gym 5 days a week, well, now you can open that up more and train each muscle group with a little bit more volume. So day one could be chest, day two could be back, day three could be shoulders, day four could be arms, day five could be legs. You take the weekend off. Okay. So it really depends on how often you're going to the gym, but in my opinion, it's of the utmost importance that you have a training split in place and you know what muscle groups you're working on before you enter the gym. If you don't, you're going to have a really hard time seeing results and you have a really high risk of getting injured. All right. Okay. Next question. Nick, is it better to bulk and cut or stay lean year round? I've always been under the philosophy that it's best to stay lean year round. Always. I've never believed in bulking. I've never believed in cutting. I think the terms are ridiculous. I think if you always stay within striking distance of the physique that you want, it's easy if you say, I want to lose 5 pounds, or it's easy if you say, I want to put on a little bit of size. It's not difficult, okay? Because you're always staying within striking distance. Whenever I would get ready for a bodybuilding show, people were shocked that it would only take me like 3 or 4 weeks. Like, when are you stepping on stage? I'm like, "Oh, 3 weeks." Like, but you haven't been dieting or anything. I'm like, no, but now I'm just going to drop my carbs by maybe 100 grams a day. I'm going to increase my cardio by maybe 30 minutes a day. And my physique would change quickly because I was always within striking distance of stage ready. So I didn't have to take 16 weeks or 18 weeks like a lot of these guys have to do. Because what happens with a lot of these bodybuilders is in the off season, they allow themselves to get sloppy. They say, oh, you got to get big. And then so they eat whatever they can. They fuel up on tons of calories, tons of carbs, both simple but also complex and healthy fats, saturated fats, trans fats, lean proteins, fatty proteins, anything. Okay. Fast food, they make some healthy food, but a lot of that food is junk food, McDonald's, whatever it may be. So then they put on weight, they might put on muscle, but they also put on fat. So I've always thought in my off season, I don't want to put on any fat. I just want to put on muscle. So what do I have to do? Well, I have to make sure that A, I'm in somewhat of a caloric surplus, but at the same time, I don't need to be in too high of a caloric surplus. And B, I want to make sure that the calories I'm consuming are coming from good, whole, clean food sources. So even in the off season, I always ate clean. I never really took my foot off the gas per se. But I also enjoyed, as I mentioned in one of the earlier questions, I enjoyed the lifestyle. I enjoyed the diet. I enjoyed the training. None of this was like a chore to me ever. I enjoyed it. And I always thought, well, if it's all these people suffering, getting ready for shows, I'm like, if you're not enjoying it, why are you doing it? So I'm under the philosophy that it's best to always stay within striking distance of the physique that you want to obtain. If the physique that you want to obtain is not a realistic physique to sustain, just try to stay within at least 10% of that physique. And you'll find that by doing that, you can sustain a diet that's not going to feel like, oh my God, I'm suffering. Or you can sustain a training split that's not going to feel like, oh, I'm sore all the time. I'm tired all the time. I'm never recovering. I have no social life. So make sure, again, it comes down to managing your expectations, but don't strive for perfection. Strive for a physique that you're like, you know what, I can sustain this physique and by me going to the gym 3 or 4 times a week and by me eating clean 80% of the time. And now you found the perfect combination. So if you say you want to get ready for a beach vacation or a bodybuilding show, it's not going to take you 16 weeks. It's not going to take you 20 weeks because you didn't allow yourself to get sloppy. Okay. And I've talked about this with tons of my competitors over the years. After the show, I'm like, don't allow yourself to get sloppy because in bodybuilding, we have something called the post-show rebound, which you can use to your benefit if you do it smart in an intelligent manner. Okay. Which is you fuel your body with more carbs, complex carbs, more fats, healthy fats, more proteins, lean proteins, because your body has been in somewhat of a state of starvation as you got ready for your competition because you are in somewhat of a caloric deficit. But once you start eating more food again, if it's good, high quality food, you can use that for fuel for your workouts, increase your weights in the gym, increase your intensity in the gym, put on more muscle with minimal fat. And that's the goal. Okay. So I've never believed in bulking. I've never believed in cutting. I think, again, both terms are ridiculous. Rarely do I use them unless I'm poking fun of them, but I don't like those terms. And even with the people I work with for competitions or people who are getting ready for their weddings or photo shoots or beach vacations, we don't bulk, we don't cut. We find a formula that works. We stick with it year round. We make revisions along the way as the formula as the body progresses, and then we make tweaks and revisions. Okay. But once you find a formula that works, stick with it. Also, put together a plan that is sustainable, both in your diet and both in your training. Okay. That's important too. All right. Okay. Nick, what's the number one nutrition mistake people keep? Oh, sorry. What's the number one nutrition mistake keeping people stuck? I think that's your question. What's the number one nutrition mistake keeping people stuck? Well, I don't know if it's a mistake or it's just maybe ignorance. A lot of people, when it comes to their diet, and I shouldn't say it's ignorant, but I think a lot of people are ill-informed. That's a better word. They're ill-informed. People love to read calories. They love to look at the carbs. They love to look at the fats. But the number one problem I see when I look at people's 3-day logs that come to work with me on their nutritional plans is the sugar. And it's unbelievable the amount of sugar that the average person consumes on a daily basis. And whenever I'm working with someone who wants to lose weight, the number one thing I see is that their sugar is way too high. And sometimes I'll get someone that comes back and says, yeah, but it's natural sugar. I'm getting it from juice. I'm getting it from fruit. Like, it doesn't matter. Your body doesn't need that much sugar. And if you take in that much sugar, it's going to get stored as body fat, period. We know this. We don't need someone to research this for us. We know this. We know that the side effects of sugar, both processed and natural, can be get detrimental. Okay. So yes, obviously natural sugar is better for you than processed sugar. And what I'm about to say, I say this time and time again, but for an active female, no more than 25 grams of sugar per day. For an active male, no more than 30 grams per sugar per day. Period. That's it. Those are the guidelines. And that sugar should be natural sugar. So there's your natural sugar right there. Shouldn't be any processed sugar in your diet. In my opinion, the only time processed sugar should come into your diet is if you're having a cheat meal. There's no other time of day where processed sugar serves your body in any way. Okay? None. So you don't need it. All right. The only time someone might need is a quick, simple sugar is if they're going into a diabetic shock. Okay. Insulin levels are low, blood sugar levels are high. Then I can see it. But if you're not diabetic, no, there's no reason for it. So we want to avoid sugar, especially processed sugar, to the best of our ability. And I know a lot of people, especially when it comes to their diets, people, it's almost like they're very sensitive about making changes. Like, no, no, I need to keep this in. I'm like, well, you don't need to keep this in. You want to keep it in. Trust me, your body doesn't need this for survival. Your body needs healthy fats for survival. Your body needs lean proteins for survival. Your body needs water for survival. But your body doesn't need processed sugar for survival. Your body does need some natural sugar for survival. Yes, this is true. Okay. But you should be able to get enough natural sugar from having berries in your diet, the raspberries, blueberries, some bananas. Okay. That's fine. Even with some condiments, I'm okay with that. Okay. But at the end of the day, you want to make sure that the majority of the sugar you're consuming is natural sugar. And as I said, if you stick to those guidelines, which that's a lot of sugar still, in my opinion. 25 grams to 30 grams is still a lot of sugar. I have a hard time even making 30 grams. Okay. And I eat a lot of food, but most of my food doesn't have sugar in it. Okay. And another thing you'll notice is that when you start to eliminate sugar from your diet, you feel better. You sleep better. You're in a better mood. Okay. Because you're not allowing food to dictate your mental state. Okay. That's like people who are addicted to coffee or caffeine. They need to have double espressos to pick me up in the morning, right? Or in that late afternoon crash, you need to have a coffee. I'm like, that's not good either. You don't want your body to become over reliant on stimulants. So if you were asking me what the biggest mistake I see people making with their diets, it's the sugar. And I'm talking to the people too out there who do a lot of these low fat diets. If you look at a lot of low fat foods or no fat foods, they're very high in sugar. But if you also look at a packet of sugar and you look at how much fat is in it, it'll tell you 0 grams. So just keep that in mind. There's 0 grams of fat in sugar. How does that make sense? Okay. And I've talked about this time and time again, so I'm not going to go into detail about the whole ramifications of having sugar and what's going to happen with fat gain, but it's something that you really want to pay attention to when you're reading nutritional labels. That should be the first thing that your eyes zone in on. What's the sugar intake? Rule of thumb that I use with my clients, if it contains more than 5 grams of sugar per serving, okay, whatever the serving size is per serving, put it back on the shelf. Don't need it. Okay. If you want it, have it for a cheat meal. This is not something that's going to be a regular food in your diet because your body doesn't need it. Your body, in fact, doesn't want it. And you'll thank me in the long term. Maybe in the short term, you'll hate me, but in the long term, you'll thank me because, yeah, you know what? I'm not addicted to this food. I don't need this food. My body doesn't need this. Okay. Seek the foods that your body needs. Lean proteins, healthy fats. I know there's arguments saying that we don't need carbohydrates, but I talked about this in the past. I'm a firm believer that the body, especially if you weight train, you do need some carbohydrates. So keep the carbohydrates as complex carbohydrate sources, quinoa, yams, sweet potatoes, brown rice, white rice. Complex carbohydrates work best as opposed to simple carbs. All right. Okay. A few more questions. Nick, why do most people fail at transforming their bodies, and how do the 1% succeed? Well, I think the number is higher than 1% because there's a lot of people that have succeeded at body transformations. I mean, you can look online, it's quite impressive. Um, Again, I think it comes down to being disciplined and consistent. Self-motivation plays a role as well because there's going to be times, even for people out there who have coaches, they need to have that self-motivation because you still need to be self-motivated during the day to get, things done as far as like your meal prepping goes. That's going to be self-motivation and discipline and consistency, making sure you're following your supplement protocol correctly, making sure you're getting to bed on time, making sure that you're sleeping properly, because those are things that a coach or trainer can't do for you, right? Your coach or trainer can design the workout and take you through the workout for sure, but they can't lift the weights for you, right? You got to do that. So in my experience, the people who make changes with their physiques are the people that are self-motivated, who do have discipline, and most importantly, follow a consistent pattern. They practice consistency over and over again. And I know it sounds cliche, but it's so true. Consistency is key. Because if you just train for 1 week and then you take 2 weeks off, or you train sporadically every few days and just train by how you feel. If today I feel like going to the gym and then I don't want to go to the gym for 3 days, you're not going to last. You're not. Okay. You're not. It's not going to happen. So you have to make sure that you're staying consistent. You have to make sure that you're dedicated. If your goal is truly to bring your body fat down from 42% down to 10%, you can do it, but you have to make sure that you're disciplined, you're practicing consistency, and that you have that self-motivation. If you lack that accountability, if you lack a little bit of that self-motivation and discipline that I'm talking about and that consistency, hire a personal trainer or coach. This is of the utmost importance for you because if you're serious about your goal, this is the way you're going to do it. Okay. And so when you ask me that question, I feel that most people don't succeed is because A, their expectations are unrealistic. A lot of people go in thinking, oh, I want to get a six pack in 30 days. And these are people who are sitting at like 25% body fat. Like, not going to happen. I don't care how much Ozempic you take, that's not going to happen. Okay. So this is why I feel that I get a lot of respect from my clientele base is because I'm very honest with them. I'm very transparent. I'm like, look, you can achieve this goal. This is a realistic goal. But actually, if it's not a realistic goal, I'll tell them it's not a realistic goal. But most people I work with, they set realistic goals because I explain the importance of setting those SMART goals, specific, measurable, attainable, timely, realistic goals. So we set realistic goals. A realistic goal is, hey, I want to lose 20 pounds in 4 to 6 months. That's a realistic goal. Okay. How are we going to do that though? How are we going to go from point A to point B? How are we going to get there? And I say we because I'm their coach trainer. It's my job too to make sure that I'm putting together a strategy that makes sense both inside the gym and outside the gym. So we have to make sure that we follow a strategy that's going to get us there. Okay. So by us staying consistent, by my clients staying dedicated to the process, by remaining self-motivated on the days that they're not with me and they might have to go to a cardio session on their own, or they might have to do a weight workout on their own if I'm working with them online. Okay. So it's important to keep your self-motivation high, keep practicing consistency. Don't get beat up on yourself, or don't beat up on yourself, I should say, if you fall off the wagon for 2 or 3 days, get right back on and keep going. That is important too, because I have a lot of clients sometimes what happens is they might miss a few days from the gym, fall off the diet for a few days, and then you don't hear from them for 3 or 4 weeks. And it's because they're on this downward spiral. I'm like, no, no, don't worry about it's 1 day or 2 days, whatever. Forget about it. Keep moving forward. Okay. So I feel like that's the reason why people lack the results that they want to achieve and why a lot of people don't achieve the results is because they don't set realistic expectations and they don't put it together a realistic strategy that's going to help them get from point A to point B. Okay. So that's so important. So don't forget, You have to be consistent. You have to be dedicated to the process. You have to have that self-motivation, and you have to make sure that your diet's in check, your training's on point, and that you're following a supplement protocol that makes sense for your body and your goals. All right. Okay. So that it. No, one more question. Nick, personal training is really expensive. What do you recommend for someone who can't afford working with a trainer but still wants to get the best results with their body? So here's the thing is I'm going to answer that in two ways. If you're looking for cheaper options in personal training, there are cheaper options. You could go with small group class training where you're getting one trainer versus 10, 15, maybe 20 clients. So that's obviously a more cost-effective way to train. You can do online training. So you can work with a trainer online. We'll design, like what I do is I design online programs for people. I don't do Zoom workouts with people, but I'll create a training program for that person. I'll attach videos to each exercise if the person doesn't know how to perform the exercises on their own. Diet plans, I'd same thing. I do them online, so I make weekly or bi-weekly revisions to people's nutritional plans. That is a more cost-effective option, I should say, than working with me in person, of course. So those are two ways, right? You could do it through small group training, online training. And there's a lot of trainers out there, there's some great trainers out there that do online training programs. I know a few of them out there, especially in the US, that do great programs. And they're like me, they're very attention to detail oriented. So then they really are hands-on with their clients, obviously online though, right? Not physically. So that's one option. Okay. So online training works, group training works. Okay. But the other answer to that question I'm going to say is, can you not afford training or you just don't want to afford training? Because here's the thing, there's a lot of people that say they can't afford something. And I don't know someone's budget, I don't know someone's personal income, but for me, whenever I think, wow, it's really expensive, I'm like, okay, rather than say I can't afford it, I always think to myself, how can I afford this? What can I do to get myself to be able to afford this? Do I need to work longer hours? Do I need to find a side hustle? Do I need to create another passive income revenue stream? So I start to figure out ways in my head as to how I can afford this rather than say I can't afford this. Because again, when you say you can't do something, you're putting a limitation on yourself. So I never tell myself something, oh, that's too expensive. If I truly want that service, if I truly want that product, I will find a way that I can afford it. And there's people out there who will say, oh, you're lucky. I'm like, I'm not lucky. I'm not lucky at all. I don't have a college education. I have a high school education. I've worked for everything I've had. Everything I have, I've worked for. No inheritance. No one gave me anything. I didn't have any handouts. I worked my ass off to get to where I am. And I'm not the only one. There's tons of people out there who are in the same situation, in better situations than me financially, because they've done the same thing. They've worked their asses off. So for me, when someone says, I can't afford something, I'm like, I don't hear I can't. I just always think like you don't want to. Because if you truly wanted to afford personal training, in my opinion, you would find a way to do it. You would. And like I said, whether that means taking on a second job, so you work in two jobs, figuring out another way to create passive revenue, right? That's another way to do it. So just finding ways to make more money, create more funds into your bank account so that you can afford those things that you want. So I don't know. I kind of I don't get annoyed, but I just feel it's a very negative mindset when people say they can't afford something, and especially if you're someone who is relatively healthy, young, lots of energy. I mean, there's people out there I know who they're never mind 40-hour weeks. They're not even working 20-hour weeks, and they're always like living on credit cards, and they're always saying they have no money. I'm like, well, yeah, because you never work, so you need to work. And if you're someone who is smart with investing and has figured out ways to create passive revenue, well, even better position for you. So I've always talked about the importance, and I don't try to make this a financial Q&A, but if someone were to ask me, I always tell people, I don't save money. I've never saved money. I always invest money. Okay. To me, saving money is ridiculous. I always found that, well, you're not going to make any money if you save money. The only way you're going to make money is if you invest money. So every time you get money into your account, invest it. Whether it's investing into the stock market, okay, investing into real estate, or investing into yourself. And what I mean by investing into yourself, that could be your own business, could be your health. So if you feel like, hey, you know what, by me going to the gym, by me being more fit, I'm going to have more energy. I'm going to be able to think more clearly, be more productive. So a lot of people who work with me, they see the benefits in personal training. They're like, no, this is an investment in my health. This is not an expense. This is an investment. Okay. So it's something I'm getting a great ROI from. So I would look at that too. Okay. And like I said, I'm not trying to get into someone's personal finances or their situation, but I'm just saying whenever I hear someone say they can't do something, I always hear it's like, no, you don't want to do something because you can do it. You're physically able to do it. You're physically able to work more hours. You have a brain, you can figure out other ways to create revenue. Okay. You just don't want to. Okay. And that's what it comes down to. Anyway, that's it for this week's No Filter Q&A. This episode will be going up on Monday, July the 21st. As a reminder, if you have any questions related to your diet, your training program, or your supplement protocol, please feel free to email me at nick@foreverfitperformance.com, or you can DM me on my Instagram at @fitcosgrove_. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for supporting my YouTube channel, my online coaching business, as well as my in-house personal training business here in Vancouver, British Columbia. I truly do appreciate all the support, all the feedback, and all the questions that I get from all of you on a weekly basis. Thank you all once again, and I will see you all next week. Bye for now.